East Hampton Town Trustees, you are live.
Okay. Welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the East Hampton Town Trustees of August 22nd, 2022. And I'd like to open the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America.
And
One nation, under God, visible,
with liberty and
justice
for all.
Welcome everybody. Start with public comment and
Can we do roll call?
I'm sorry, roll call, I'm sorry. Allison,
John Aldred.
here.
Francis Bach.
Here.
David Cataletto.
Here.
Ben Dollinger. Tim Garneau.
Here.
Jim Grimes.
Here.
Mike Martinson.
Here.
Susan McGraw-Keever.
Here.
Bill Taylor.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to public comment. That's Bob Keenan for that replacery in Mac Harbor.
Yeah, I'd just like to give you a brief update on the progress at the Oyster Reef. I think the last meeting you did announce that we got the permits from the state, so we're ready to go. Waiting for a specific day from the spring school. They have to let me know, a day that's going to work in their schedule and what grade levels they want to participate. And then Harley and I will get everything ready and we'll put the reef in, which will be exciting.
Would it be possible to give us a notification when you're doing it?
Oh, absolutely.
I'd
Yeah,
love to stop in and check it out.
I'd love for anybody who wants to come down and see. I think it's going to be it should be a community event. It's exciting. And hopefully it's the first of many, because these can really have a positive impact on the environment.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So as soon as I have a date, I will let you guys know.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
We just think it's really good. Thank you.
Well, one thing I'm still trying to figure out is we talked about having a sign or some sort of signage, and I was thinking, trying not to do that. In the pamphlet that you give out when you give out shellfish licenses, it has all the rules and regulations. Where the eelgrass is in Peak, there's just a little indication of where the eelgrass is and that you can't shellfish there. Can we do something similar to that so we don't have to mar the view of the environment, but everybody?
That actually sounds like a really good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this way, nothing's going to stand out, nothing
It's
unnatural.
not another sign to basically
Right.
fall into disrepair.
Yeah, which is what would happen.
Yeah.
So this way, it'll just be right in the booklet that will make some sort of indication where the reef and other reefs are, and you can't shellfish there. Great. Any other questions?
Anyone else?
So can you write that up and email that to us?
Yeah. Yeah.
What you think we go to the book?
Okay, perfect. And then,
Do you think not having signage will have an effect on people trying to harvest there?
well, people who have a license and are doing it properly are going to know you can't. Those who aren't going to care about any of that anyway. You know what I mean? And there aren't a lot of people going out. There aren't a lot of people, like everybody always asks me, does anybody ever take the oysters out of the cages? For the oyster gardening. I don't think that's the thing. A little bit. Okay. But I don't think it's going to be, I hope it's not going to be something that has a negative impact on the reef. Yeah.
If it becomes a problem with you, or
Yeah, if we see damage, then we'll get to it. They're also going to be in a mesh that'll last for the first year or two, so that'll hopefully deter.
There are going to be clusters of oysters too, right?
They're going to be, hopefully as they grow, clusters of oyster, it's starting to grow together as a natural reef. Yes, that's the goal.
good.
Yep.
Some of that reef will remain above the water at high tide, right?
At high tide,
Would be just about.
just about, yeah.
I would think that if you think there might be a problem down the line, a small sign could be stuck right on top. That this is, experimental or
Right.
protected area, whatever.
And if we're successful and this becomes a natural reef, and the oysters are all going to be stuck together, this isn't going to be the oysters that most people are used to picking up off the bottom. Now this is going to be a natural reef, but the oysters are going to be really much thinner and spread out than the oysters that we actually cultivate. So they're not going to be as the ones we get that are nice and plump.
Yeah, the market doesn't really demand that style of oyster, so there really isn't a commercial like target there. If it happens the way we expect it to,
It should be very ugly.
Good.
that would be a beautiful thing.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would.
Beneficial. Yeah.
So on Wednesday, John, Bob, and some students were going to paddle out and look for 2 possible new sites.
Right. Yeah, the students have been out with me a couple of times. We've found 2 good hard bottom areas, which we'll show you guys on Wednesday and see how it works.
Yeah, maybe we should just.
Excuse me, I hate to interrupt. This is Matt Lowndes from LTV. I apologize. We're having issues with our sound on channel 22. The video's playing, and on YouTube there is sound. I just wanted to let you guys know and be aware of this issue. We're troubleshooting it right now. You can continue the meeting. It is on YouTube with video and sound. Sorry, Bob.
That's all right.
Maybe we should share with the board these suggested sites that we're going to visit.
Yeah, I really would like to tread slowly on this.
Mhm.
Let's see how this first pilot project works out. I would really hate to start building these things, and if it becomes any issues with the public and that, I'd really like to see it fleshed out.
Yeah, we'd like to talk to the homeowners in the area of both of the new sites. The one thing though, slowing down, it's hard not to slow down. It was 2 years of getting this process. So, and that's the only thing. I get what you're saying, but I also think, okay, 2.5 years. I'm adding 2 years to everything
Okay.
so if we get a state okay on these in another 2 years, and there's something that we still have to get your approval. You know what I mean? It still can be, you still can put the kibosh on it at that point, but I'd hate to slow down the process because it's so painfully slow.
Both these possible sites are in closed waters, and actually one of them in the southern part of the harbor. I think we talked about when Bob first broached this idea. I think you might have suggested this spot as a potential, spot that might be a useful place for a reef in front of that house that's on the way to Lazy Point. The last house on the left, it's almost in the water. It was a bit of a hard bar off the house. And I think that's one of the.
You're talking about the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both the sites, and I don't want to take away from the students' presentation, but both the sites are different in that we're going to be looking to prevent erosion in these 2 sites because they are both in front of houses, and you can see there's a significant erosion problem in front of both. So looking at this is also another environmental plus for the area. I think if we get to talk to the homeowners, I can't imagine them not being in favor of stabilizing their land there. So.
I also asked Bob Barley when I reach out to Economic Protection Committee. They're doing some work up there in the north, and that's a concern to them because of the small area that's been downgraded by the DEC from, I believe it's from seasonally closed to closed year round, or open year round to seasonally closed. But, reaching out to the homeowners that this will be close to, and at least APC, I think will, hopefully we'll get people on board with this idea.
And both of those are in the works.
And one question I had actually, do you have visions of
Recording in progress.
more
Yeah.
more reefs?
Yeah, the state only allows 50 square yards. And when you look at making an impact on an environment, on an ecosystem like Acquonic Harbor, that's a little pin drop. If we can get 3, and we really went over the whole bottom and staying away from the inlet itself, the 3 places we have now are the only real good hard bottom. So what I'm going to try to do, and this is again probably years from now because it takes so long, is to double up on the 3 spots. And I don't know if the state's going to allow that. I don't know if you guys are going to allow that, but that's my next thought because it is a very soft bottom harbor. And going with the students, we were there quite a few days in kayak, just looking for anything that was solid. And you could get something that only had, 6-8 inches of silt on it, which you could walk on, and a lot of it you just go down to your waist. But the 3 spots we found are solid and of significant size where I think if we could double up, then if we get a spawn, we have a good shot at getting new spout on shell growing and a natural root. So, I mean, this is about getting a huge volume of spawn so that the chances of the reef actually getting, larvae to set on it has better odds.
I would just like to recommend that the town hatchery consider planting in dense levels, the way they are at different places currently. Mother stocks, say, so that we have the possibility for successful reproduction to occur in the harbor,
Right.
nearby to your project.
And then on top of that too, we have the oyster gardening cages there, which are going to add to this mix. So.
Right. Nice.
So that's the plan.
For our notes, could I have the 3 sites that you're considering, Bob? For the minutes.
I think they're in the packet.
They are.
Yeah, I don't have the coordinates, but they're in there.
One's permitted.
You're coming back to us.
Yeah. Actually, we're going to be coming. The students are going to be coming as soon as we can schedule it to give a full presentation.
They do their presentation, and this is part of their deal.
Yeah, this is more that I don't want to take away from them. They've been working on it hard.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, thank you.
Farley, did you want to talk to us about anything else? No?
Unless you have any questions, I was just here for corporate.
Okay, great.
Barley, I have a question for you. I was on a dock inspection today, and this person claimed to be hearing sounds of what sounded like people swimming at night. And she said she researched it and thinks that it's cow-nose rays.
Could be. Yeah,
Now's
the time.
Have you heard any reports of more cow-nose rays?
Not this year here, but I've heard about them right off Shinnecock. But I haven't heard any reports in local waters, but that could certainly be, now's the time. August is usually when they show up. But yeah, I haven't heard of any reports.
Check that.
She said she researched it, and apparently they can swim near the surface at night and make splashing noises with their wings, and it does sound like somebody, swimming, splashing with their hands.
Where's this in Trimahara?
This isn't down in Sockheim's area.
Okay.
It sounded pretty far, upstream to me.
Yeah.
Cow-nose rays. I don't know what their habits are.
Yeah, I think they'll go wherever there's food. And scallops are easy pickings. I think they're one of the main things that's been picking them off. But no, I haven't heard, a couple years ago, I saw a guy foul hook one off the dock and heard some, Nat Miller said he'd seen some inside 3 Mile, but I haven't heard any reports this year of anything inside the town waters. But I'll definitely ask around and keep an ear out.
Yeah, just curious.
Interesting. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Barley. Okay. Matt, do we have anybody on the phone?
No, there's no callers right now.
Thank you. All right, move on to new business. Lazy Point, we have an application received from Susan Noble. She's a Lazy Point leaseholder, 100 Shore Road, lots number 52N and 53N. Renew her application to replace biodegradable burlap sandbags that are protecting her home.
Yeah, we get this every year and it's like a normal. Yeah, we've done this, we've renewed this permit multiple times. We're coming into the season that she gets a little bit nervous about the integrity of the shoreline, and I'd like to make a motion to approve it.
I'll second. I just have one. At what point do these become permanent? Yeah.
Well, they degrade, Francis,
Yeah,
so
okay.
it's one of those cases. She's got a tenuous kind of
No, I know she
situation
does.
there, in that
It's not good.
when that west inlet
Right.
was dredged the first time, there was some erosion issues down there when it was dredged the last time.
Mhm.
It seems like that has become exaggerated, and it seemed like a minor concession to make this.
I sent everyone pictures of her sandbags this past week. I did have a long conversation with her, and then Jim and I spoke about her. She's been doing this for a while and she just wants to replace them. I think that it would be very helpful to her if we do that. But if you all took a look at the email I sent to you, I showed you what her bags look like right now. And it will just take one nor'easter and she'll be wiped out again. So her house is very close to the water line.
I do seem to remember that when this came up originally, it was batted back and forth, and that the solution was, this solution was framed as a temporary solution. But Susan has come back to us on a regular basis, so I was thinking as long as Susan's there, she's understanding of the permission.
She's understanding, and she's allowing some of the natural vegetation, spartina and disticus is growing between some of the remnants of these old bags. And that, I'm hoping at some point we can actually have an east inlet, and this becomes sort of a mood issue.
Yeah. All right, so we have a motion on the table from Jim.
Second.
I'll second it.
All
Is
in
somebody
favor?
else?
Aye.
Okay. So, who seconded it? Bill, thank you.
Okay, old business. The thing I see here is dock survey and the drone estimate. So you're going to be taking that estimate back to yours?
No, Allison, that's Susan.
No, I thought Susan was taking it to Congress.
Oh, yes, Francis. Yes, and board. I sent the 3 items back to PEP, to Dr. Joyce Novak and her new associate, Valerie is her name, and they have received it. And John was very helpful in providing the language directly from, I think, the proposal. Is that right, John? The 2 for Accabonac Salt Marsh funding, and also for the Napeague Inlet. And then the 3rd thing was the drone, so we added that as well. And I did send it back to them the next day.
So my question is, when do they anticipate awarding these?
This is not, these requests for 3 top priority projects weren't for direct funding, in my understanding. They were for the Peconic Estuary program to just take priority projects from local government and work on helping the governments with seeking out funding. They weren't for direct funding by DEP.
Oh, okay.
That's my understanding.
So in truth, the timeliness.
Hey guys,
of
Matt,
this-
apologies one more time. Matt Lowndes at LTV. We are on channel 22. There is sound and video. We have a little bit less capabilities, but I will make sure to try to get whoever's talking on the screen throughout the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
I think given sort of our timeline, this sounds like something that might better be paid out of pocket.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and it could still be, retroactive.
It could be retroactive, but I think to serve our needs. Is this something that we could make a motion here tonight to move this thing forward?
I think, Allison, you have the information, right?
I have it right here.
And I'm trying to have it there too. It's all in each of your folders as well.
Okay, so the estimate is $7,500 for 50 miles of shoreline comprising all of our harbors. This means flying 100 miles total to capture the overlap images. It would take 5 to 6 days of flying and collecting images plus processing, and can start whenever we want. If we exclude NAP, it would be approximately $6,000.
There are no docks. There's some bulkheads on that Peak Harbor,
And just one dock,
and there is one dock.
just one.
Okay, so I think for the,
I mean, I guess, what is the value of having a current picture of all our shorelines at one time that we can look back to in
I
the
think the
future
extra
for a variety?
I think framed in that way, I think the extra $1,500 probably is value.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
But that was just a little bit unclear to approve it with or without that peak. With them.
With.
NAPIG.
And I would say we should get this underway as soon as possible.
So that's what I'm thinking, is if we can get it underway, like, really ASAP, that way we capture these seasonal docks. Well,
Right. The proposal says that they are ready whenever we are ready.
Okay.
Yep, he can.
Should we consider reaching out to the town, see if they want to include Montauk? Or
No.
Yeah.
That just, what that does is it just kind of complicates
Yeah.
something.
They have their own drone anyway.
Yeah, and if they like what we've done here, then they could easily jump on that, and if they don't like it, or we don't like it, it'd be kind of foolish to jump on it the entire.
This is going to be it'll be extremely helpful to us as a baseline as well going forward. So I think it's a wonderful thing. And thank you so much for Allison for pursuing it.
I can give him a call tomorrow.
Okay, great. All right, we'll move on to committee reports. Oh, before I do that, Matt, is there anybody on the phone line?
There's no phone callers. Can you just repeat one more time what topic we're on? I'm sorry, I got lost when we were trying to troubleshoot.
Topic was doc survey.
Yep. Okay, good. I had that right. Okay.
Moving down to committee reports. All right, harbor management and dredging. My understanding that the Water Beach Homeowners Association has to be removed, but
What's happened is we were actually late getting them the renewal, the draft renew the permit.
Mhm.
And I spoke to Ken Neary today, and it seemed reasonable. They just got it this afternoon. Let them look it over. They'll come, we'll put this on the agenda for our next meeting. If they have any questions or concerns, then the opportunity to address them.
We'll table that one.
No, they're not gonna do this work until December anyway.
Okay.
And apparently there is still some questions as to which side you're going from the recipients of the sand and that stuff. It sounded like it was actually helping there.
All right, well, we're all the way down to administrative payment of the bills. We have Montauk Marine Basin, $784.78 for fuel. Staples, $115.74. Hodgson Russ LLC, this must be a misprint, $138.
So we're going with that.
That sounds good.
No, I think that is actually.
That's accurate.
That's from Northwest.
Yeah. Van Dyke and Hand, accountant, $1,560.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and we do have minutes here.
Yes. June 8th, August 8th.
Yes, August 8th.
And I did read them, and I sent my suggestions into Allison. As far as I was concerned, everything was fine with the little changes that I put in. I don't know, John, if you added as well, or?
I did. Okay, hey, can I ask something? These minutes are being edited and manipulated. Is that they be resent to the board members, just so that everybody sees what basically finally gets entered into the record?
They're sent to you all right after and before the meetings. Do you want me to send them?
Well, no,
Right
no,
after
yes, see, I'm not unclear. When I get these things like today,
Mhm.
I'm unclear as whether somebody's had their fingers on them and
Got
the
Yep.
minutes.
So
When
to-
Allison sends us the meetings, just so the board understands and I read them, it's for misspellings of people's names. It's to add another detail that perhaps she did not hear at the time because she was working on it as the meeting transpired. So there are things that, and we speak to each other, and I send forward they're very minuscule items, but there are little details that she may have missed, and we'll just, present, or the name of somebody's last name is misspelled, or the name was incorrect. It's very, very little. It's not heavy duty information.
But do you want to know the spread and final?
We can certainly do that. Sure.
And there's changes made, if those things can be basically redlined as opposed to just edited.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not any alteration of anything that took place. If anything, it fills in holes that might be there and correction. I'd like to add a couple of things to the meeting, if that's possible.
I'm sorry?
May I add a couple of things to the meeting before we end? Because I think we're at the end, no?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, okay. I get the weekly report from Suffolk County Department of Health Services for the treatment of various different towns and the marshes. So I just wanted to let everyone know that this week, Cedar Point Park is the only place in East Hampton that will have treatment. And Napeague, Beach Hampton, Accabonac Harbor, they are all fine. So that's good news for those areas. And then John submitted a request for our website. And so I sent everyone the links today for two things that we've added. With Orsted, they announced the pre-construction benthic survey for the South Fork project, and that commences tomorrow. It will be finished by the day after. So that tomorrow is August 23rd, and it will finish on August 24th. The survey involves a vessel called the Rachel Goodwin, and it will temporarily be holding position at various locations along the route to collect grab samples. And it will be approximately a third of a mile offshore of Wainscott Beach. But that's on our website, so I wanted everyone to know that that will be taking place in the next 2 days. John, thanks so much for following up with this and getting Jen Garvey of Orsted to send us this information. The other item that I added was about the poaching that has been going on. And over the weekend, I had direct calls from residents in Lazy Point, and they actually witnessed the 3 poachings going on different nights. Late at night, about 11:30, they called anonymously. You can call anonymously and report suspicious activity in the waters. This was down at Lazy Point in Napeague. And I did talk to Tim Treadwell about this as well. But apparently they were there with 4 cars in one location with a van. Another night, there is now a person that seems to be the Outlook person. And the third night, last night, apparently they have special calls that they make to each other to let people know that there are people coming, so they disperse. So it is an ongoing situation. It's in Napeague, at least I know that now, where it's happening every other night over this last weekend. So I wanted to make everybody aware of that, and I did post the article from the Star with Tim Treadwell's suggestion that if you see suspicious activity, to please call the police department, and they will immediately dispense a police officer or someone from Marine Patrol. And that's it.
Sounds an awful lot like organized crime. How about the RICO Act?
Well, they know what they're doing, that's for sure. And with this new person who's on the lookout, they were very careful in trying to get this person to return and walk away from the activity. And it was going on at Shore Road, the entrance down there, and also on Crescents Boulevard over the weekend 3 times.
Do we know what tide it is that they're targeting? Anything like that? If one of us wanted to go on a patrol, what tide would we shoot
One
for?
night was about 11 o'clock, another night 11:30, and then it was after midnight as well. So they go at various different times. And I did talk to Tim about maybe it was low tide. One night, apparently the tide was very low and they were just able to walk in ankle up to their ankles, and they were grabbing, but apparently there were a lot of buckets and they were taking away from the ground.
What are they taking? They're taking anything. From what I understand, what went on last summer is when this kind of started, is they would set up like basically an LED light system on a float, and like picking rice out of the paddies, they would all work the spread of that light and literally collect anything they found. If there was oysters, they would collect oysters. If there were trunks, they would collect trunks. If there was clams, they would clam it. They were just grabbing anything and everything that was on the bottom in the area that they were working.
That pig seems to me like it would be pretty thin pickings.
I agree, but last year they were talking about that because I got picked up by the Marine Patrol last year one night doing the horseshoe crab survey, and I made the mistake when the guy said, "Come over here now," basically flipping him the bird and saying, "I'll talk to you when I'm done," and that really didn't go over well. And after we both got together and he realized, he said, "Hey, listen, we've been getting call after call about people down here poaching." And that's the deal. And this year when I was doing the counts, because my wife and I were the only ones down there, we left one night, Christ, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm coming down Napeague Meadow Road, and I passed like 6 or 7 cars headed down to Lazy Point at 1 in the morning. And this was like, I think it was like the new moon in May. Okay, so I called Tim, and God bless him, I called Tim Treadwell at 1 o'clock in the morning, and he answered the phone on the second ring. And he did get there, and what they thought would be maybe 3 or 4 people, they had, I think he told me it was close to 15 people down there that night. And you know what? They got like 4. So,
but I would imagine at that point they were looking for horseshoe crabs.
Well, at that point they're looking for horseshoe crabs, but they've moved from horseshoe crabs over blue claw crabs in Georgia. they'll move from the blue claw crabs to squid off of the hanger dock here shortly. And, guys, not for nothing, the days of catching that guy with his kids doesn't have a shellfish permit, that's taking a bucket of clams, that as much as it is illegal, it's not having any real impact on the population. We're moving into something completely different here now, okay? We're taking, on the crabs, we're taking any and all crabs, okay? Undersized ones carrying eggs, everything goes. And the same situation is occurring with the squid. Last fall at the hanger dock, there was a dozen people down at the hanger dock working multiple shifts. They had utility trailers with commercial totes on the trailers, and they would do a bucket brigade with a generator and a light system, and they'd work all night long jigging squid. And at the end of the night, they had, on each of these trailers, they had anywhere between 2 and 4. I want to talk about totes roughly the size of these tables, full of squid. And they'd leave at 8:30 in the morning. And the problem, as I was told, is recreational squid, there's no limit on in New York State. So, hey, the DEC, I'm sure, did not have this in mind when they issued recreational permits.
The saltwater fishing license?
Yeah, but this is going on.
What would, Jim, what would they be taking fiddler crabs for? That's what, one night they were taking buckets and buckets filled with fiddler crabs. What are fiddler crabs used for?
Fiddler or hermit crabs.
Aphrodisiacs.
There ain't much meat on a fiddler crab.
It could be for bait, it could be for fish food. I could see where maybe it has some value, but obviously it does if they're taking it. I'm curious. I'd be curious to know what the take is. That might help in the enforcement. Well, Georgia is clear. Lazy Point's a little unclear to me.
No, okay, listen, I was standing there, the only thing you're seeing is a few wheels.
Well, Tim's picture, the picture that you took was in the East Hampton Star article, and also I asked you for it and I used it on our website. Those you believe came from out east, right?
Yeah, there was no telling. That was just a representation of what I saw in Chinatown. So they could have been in.
Okay. And they were undersized as well, right?
Oh, that was linked to.
Well, they were undersized based on our regulations. I don't know.
Right. It was a great picture. Thank you, Tim.
Sure, but anyway, I'm actually talking to DEC agents, the field agents out here, and see what kind of help we can get there.
And I've begun some conversation with DEC council contacts that I have. We've begun to look into it as well, because even though there's no limit on recreational taking of squid, the moment those things are taken in the truck and hit the market, well, that's a commercial harvest. Right. So, and that goes for the crabs and squid and everything else. So hopefully, because that's kind of where we're out of our jurisdiction, to the Rim Patrol will drive us to Queens and see if those squid hit the market. So hopefully we can start to unite the forces here and come up with a game plan to put an end to this. So I'm working on it as well.
Seems like a few well-placed GoPros from here and there from time to time might be helpful in, at least identifying who's doing what, when, where. Camera work.
Well, one of the things that's kind of thrown like Marine Patrol a little bit is you take the blue claw in Georgia. That's a daytime thing. Okay. Nobody's thinking of going down there in the middle of the night to check for compliance, just simply because we haven't had anybody down there at night doing stuff. To a certain degree, Lazy Point is very similar. So, the whole thing is, the whole operational aspect of this has changed, and we're gonna, everybody seems to be trying to adjust to it, catch up with it. there's some possible way of making an example of some of these individuals. You know, we get some real legs, but you know, for the guys to get a ticket in the town of East Hampton when they live in Brooklyn and Queens, I'm not sure whether that really means anything at the end of the day, unfortunately.
No, especially when many of these charges get dismissed in court anyway.
Means that to come back to show up for court.
Well, not necessarily. Hey, if you're illegal, you're undocumented, you've got bogus papers or some bullshit driver's license.
It's true.
Hey, that's
You know, you can't send anybody into Brooklyn to
wait, you're gonna try to
grab
you're gonna try
somebody.
to extradite. Who's picking them out of the line?
Currently, the fine for taking shellfish without a permit is $150, which really is a very small, meager amount when you think about all the people who are actually involved in taking from our waters and then going back with a $150 ticket. And of 10 people who were at one spot the other evening, I read that 6 people were apprehended. But that doesn't add up to very much when you see the prices that they're selling these things for or that they're using them for that's making them money. So I think $150 is a very meager amount of fine. And I think we should consider, you know, the town might consider raising that to a significant number, and that will deter people, I would hope. Silence.
Anyway.
All right, anybody have anything else?
Can somebody just share did you accept the minutes?
I don't think.
I don't have any. Were they-
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 8th. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, who's the second?
Yeah.
Tim? Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
You don't know.
Motion to adjourn?
Well, that was good.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Who seconded the motion?
And
Tim? Tim? Okay, thank you, Tim.